Okay, let's dive right into this. Welcome to today's Explainer. We're looking at some absolutely massive AI news today, a real breakthrough in how artificial intelligence processes complex medical records. So, if you work in health tech, data science, or honestly, if you're just fascinated by how AI is streamlining the most complicated industries out there, you are in the exact right place. We're breaking down a recent research paper that essentially proves we have been completely overcomplicating how we feed patient data to AI. To really appreciate what a game changer this is, we have to start with a pretty tough question. How do you actually teach an AI to read a messy medical chart? I mean, hospital data isn't neat. It's definitely not some clean, perfectly organized spreadsheet. It is a completely chaotic mix of a doctor's hurried free text notes, raw blood pressure readings, timestamps, and laboratory values, just all thrown together in one place.
So here is our roadmap for unpacking this. First, the medical data problem. Second, the multimodal fusion bottleneck. Third, the unified serialization solution. Fourth, putting it to the test. And finally, the developer implementation playbook.
Section 1. The medical data problem. A mess of information.
To really grasp this problem, we need to look at what makes electronic health records, or EHRs, so incredibly stubborn to work with. They are, by nature, totally heterogeneous. You've got free text clinical narratives, which is just regular human language, living right next to structured vital signs, highly specific laboratory values, and these complex medical codes for patient comorbidities. When you try to build a prediction model with this, you're essentially forcing an AI to understand completely different languages of data all at the exact same time.
Section 2. The multimodal fusion bottleneck. The Frankenstein approach.
Now, the prevailing way of dealing with this heterogeneous data has been something called multimodal fusion. And honestly, it is a massive engineering headache. It's kind of like trying to duct tape a spaceship together. Developers have to build these dedicated custom encoders for every single data type. You need one pipeline for the text, a totally different one for the tabular data, and yet another for time series data. Then you have to stitch them all together with these super complex combination mechanisms. And the absolute worst part? You have to constantly re-engineer these custom bridges for every single new clinical task. Section 3. The unified serialization solution. The aha moment. Well, this brings us to the incredibly elegant new solution that completely bypasses that bottleneck: unified serialization. This is the process of systematically converting all that structured patient data into a single, consistent natural language sequence for a large language model to process. Think about it like this. Instead of trying to teach the AI multiple different languages, like math, tables, and medical jargon all at once, we're simply translating the whole shebang into one universal language: text. We take the tables, the timestamps, the codes, and just format them into textual tokens. When you stack these two approaches up side by side, the contrast is honestly stark. The old multimodal fusion way requires heavy engineering, custom encoders, and complex gradient routing. But unified serialization, it just uses a standard transformer architecture. You're shifting the entire integration challenge away from complex model architecture and placing it purely onto simple, intelligent data formatting. Everything just passes right through as a single text sequence. Section 4. Putting it to the test. Proving the paradigm shift. To validate this bold new paradigm, the researchers didn't just test it in a vacuum. They threw it at 3 real-world, clinically distinct prediction tasks. They looked at predicting in-hospital mortality using the widely known MIMIC-3 dataset. They predicted graft failure using longitudinal data from a German transplant center. And they tackled emergency triage classification based on actual ambulance records. So we're talking broad applicability across vastly different medical scenarios here. And to process these serialized text sequences, they didn't go out and build some fancy new medical AI from scratch. No way. They just fine-tuned standard, off-the-shelf, large language models end-to-end. They used encoder-based models like Modern BERT and a whole suite of decoder-based models. We're talking Llama 3.1, Gemma, DeepSeek R1, Qwen, and Qwen 3. Literally 0 bespoke architectural modifications were made for data fusion. That means developers can skip months of specialized engineering and just leverage the incredibly powerful models that already exist. Okay, so here is the crucial point: the results. Unified textual serialization matched or completely exceeded the specialized multimodal baselines across all 3 of those clinical tasks. By just using standard LLMs and formatting the data intelligently into text, this simple formatting trick beat out the highly specialized complex fusion models that literally took months to engineer.
Actually, scratch that, it gets even better. Check out this finding from the paper. For the graft failure prediction task, this new serialized method didn't just beat other baseline research models. It outperformed the robust, clinically deployed gradient boosting system that actual doctors are currently using on real patients for post-transplant management. That is a massive, real-world validation of this approach.
Section 5. The Developer Implementation Playbook. Actionable steps.
If you're building clinical prediction systems, the researchers laid out 5 essential recommendations for actually putting this into practice. 1. Standardize your data conversion. 2. Fine-tune standard LLMs. 3. Manage your context window. 4. Validate against clinical baselines. And 5. Audit serialization edge cases.
Let's elaborate on the technical execution for a second. When standardizing your conversion, you absolutely must ensure you perfectly preserve the clinical semantics, meaning the actual medical context when converting numbers, timestamps, and codes into text. And because you're turning everything into text, longitudinal patient records are going to generate massive token counts. To handle that, the researchers strongly recommend using parameter-efficient fine-tuning techniques like LoRa or QLoRa to save memory, and employing chunking or sliding windows so you don't accidentally truncate critical clinical events.
But a quick warning here. Before you deploy this, remember that real-world hospital data is notoriously messy. EHR systems frequently contain incomplete records, wildly inconsistent coding standards, and very noisy free text notes. You've got to rigorously test and audit how your model handles these messy edge cases, like missing lab values or conflicting notes, long before it ever touches a real hospital server.
So, what does this all mean? Ultimately, this explainer boils down to one major takeaway for AI in the health sector. Engineering teams should prioritize the quality of their data serialization over the complexity of their model architecture. The era of building bespoke, custom fusion layers for every new clinical task is being rapidly replaced by intelligent data formatting and off-the-shelf LLMs. Which leaves us with a pretty fascinating thought to end on. We've just seen how translating all data modalities into a single text sequence completely defeated specialized medical models. So, if unified serialization can master the incredible chaos of medical data, could this exact approach make bespoke AI architectures obsolete in your industry too? Think about your own data pipelines. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and keep questioning how you build.